They grabbed me in the middle of a city council meeting, not outside, not after a warning, not because I was shouting or threatening anyone, but right there under those buzzing fluorescent lights with cameras rolling and elected officials staring straight ahead like they'd suddenly forgotten how necks work. 4 officers moved at the same time, smooth, practiced, like muscle memory kicked in before thought ever had a chance. One hand on my arm, another on my shoulder. Someone bumped the podium and my notes slid off and scattered across the floor. White paper against dull gray tile, and I remember thinking how quiet it all felt, even though everything was going wrong. I was calm. I really was. Suit pressed, voice steady. Just talking about accountability, about numbers, about patterns. Nothing radical, nothing emotional, just facts, but the detective in the back of the room didn't care. He stood up, crossed his arms, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Get him out of here." And that was it. No discussion, no hesitation. They grabbed me like I'd flipped a table instead of asked a question. As they pulled me away, I heard one of them laugh, not a big laugh, just that quick little breath through the nose, like this was routine, like this was funny. And I remember thinking, yeah, that happened. This is really happening. I leaned toward the detective as they dragged me and said quietly, "This meeting is being recorded." And he leaned in close, so close I could smell his cologne, and whispered, "Nobody cares." 52 seconds. That's how long it took to humiliate me in public for speaking during lawful public comment. 52 seconds that told me everything I needed to know about how this place really worked. What none of them knew, not the officers, not the council members, not the detective with the smirk, was that in less than an hour, they were going to hear 5 words that would flip the room upside down. "Please welcome our new police chief," and the man they'd just dragged across the floor like a criminal. Yeah, that was me. Earlier that morning, I was in my kitchen making scrambled eggs, the way my daughter liked them. Soft, a little underdone Ava, sitting across from me in her pajamas, half asleep, poking at her plate. And she asked if I was nervous about my big week, and I smiled and folded the little note I'd written for her lunch, creasing it carefully like it mattered because it did. And I said, "Just work stuff, kiddo." I didn't tell her about the manila folder on the counter with the mayor's signature on it, dated a week earlier, Police Chief, City of Brookhaven. I didn't tell her that I'd asked the mayor to keep it quiet. 7 days of silence. 7 days of walking through headquarters as a lieutenant, watching who whispered, who avoided eye contact, who deferred to a detective named Carl Donner, a man who technically outranked me by nothing but fear. I'd been a cop 16 years military before that. You learn how rotten systems smell before they collapse. You learn that power doesn't always wear the biggest badge, and I wanted to see it clearly before I tried to change it. Ava looked at me that morning like kids do when they know you're holding something back, and I told her change was coming, and she asked if it was good change, and I said I hoped so. That night, I put on a Navy suit and left my badge at home, signed up for public comment like any other citizen because I needed to know, one thing: would this system let an ordinary person speak, or would it show its teeth the moment it felt challenged? The chamber smelled like old coffee and disinfectant. The city camera blinked red in the corner. I signed my name. Speaker number 4, routine stuff, parking issues, zoning complaints, and then Donner showed up, late, plain clothes, arms crossed, sitting in the back like he owned the place. 4 uniformed officers posted along the wall, neutral observers, on paper enforcers. In reality, you know what I mean. When my name was called, I walked up, adjusted the mic, said my name, said I was there to talk about accountability. And before I finished the sentence, a councilman interrupted me about agendas and districts, procedural nonsense meant to shut people up politely. I kept my voice level, pointed out that accountability affects everyone, and that's when Donner stood and said I was disrupting the meeting, already motioning to the officers. I glanced at the timer and said, I have 1 minute and 42 seconds remaining, and that's when they moved. I didn't fight them. I went limp on purpose, forcing them to carry me, making it visible, undeniable, shoes, scraping gloves, squeaking, a phone hitting the floor. And I said again, "This is being recorded." And he said again, "Nobody cares." They dumped me in the hallway like trash and walked back inside laughing. And I straightened my jacket, checked my watch, and sat in my car outside City Hall with the engine running, 40 minutes to go, heart pounding but mind clear in a strange way. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Inside, one council member who knew the truth uploaded a short clip online. No commentary, just video, and by the time the emergency session was called, it was everywhere. People asking who authorized this, what law I broke, why a detective was giving orders. When the mayor stepped up later that night, the room was packed, cameras everywhere, tension thick, and she talked about a national search and integrity and reform, and when she said, "Please welcome Brookhaven's new police chief," the side door opened and I walked in wearing full dress uniform and the room just froze. Someone gasped, a phone fell. Donner didn't move, his face drained of color as reality hit him all at once, and I stood at that same podium and talked about transparency and accountability and learning the culture I was inheriting, and I didn't mention being dragged out 40 minutes earlier because I didn't need to. Everyone in that room knew exactly what had happened. You'd think that would be the end, neat and satisfying, but that's not how real life works. What came next was retaliation, anonymous letters, phone calls, whispers, and then the line that crossed everything when someone mentioned my daughter's school by name. That's when it stopped being abstract. That's when it got real. I sent Ava to stay with family out of state, sat alone in a dark house staring at a resignation letter I almost sent finger hovering over the trackpad thinking how easy it would be to make it all stop. And then the story broke wider. A reporter dug deeper. A young officer came forward with body cam footage and emails, overtime audits, patterns that couldn't be explained away, proof that what I'd felt in my gut was real. The system that protected Donner cracked slowly at first, then all at once. At the final council session, they played the audio again, my voice saying, "This is being recorded," his saying, "Nobody cares," and this time the room was silent in a different way because now everyone cared. Donner was placed on leave, the city manager resigned, the union screamed betrayal, and I took command anyway. On my first day, I sent a department-wide memo, anonymous reporting, civilian oversight, real audits, real consequences, and that night I picked Ava up from the airport, and she hugged me, like she wasn't sure I was real and asked if I won, and I told her nobody wins, but things can change. And that's where this story stays uncomfortable because some people still think I went too far, some think I manipulated the moment, some think the officers were just doing their jobs and the ends don't justify the means. So here's what I want to know from you. Honestly, if you were in that room, if you saw someone silenced for speaking calmly, if you later found out that person was about to be your boss, would you call it justice or revenge?